And at day 6, we're going to be taking a look at Psycho Diver Soul Siren. Now, I just have to mention this, but in the PS2 game Art Tenelico Melodia Velemia, there's actually a song on the OST called Psycho Diver, so I thought that was kind of amusing. But anyways, this one is considered as a psychological sci-fi horror, and it's only an OVA of 1 episode. And it's not based after any manga series or anything, it's all pure original. So knowing that, let's talk about the story. So our main character here is a detective named Busujima, and he is known as one of the few people with the Psycho Diver powers, which pretty much allows him to dive into people's minds while solving crime within. And the main case that this one focuses on is with a famous pop idol named Yuki. And she's been having a really hard time trying to sing for that some cult is trying to fuck with her head. And the cult are the ones that giving her this weird psychic powers that are very dangerous, and she needs to be taken care of, hence why they need Busujima. And as you would expect, that the cult leader is not very happy about this, so she ends up wanting to hire a bunch of assassins to kill Busujima. So he has a lot of shit on his hands that he has to take care of, such as trying to cure Yuki, which is very difficult, and also just trying to avoid getting killed by a bunch of assassins. And that sums up the basics of what you need to know. Now, I actually found that this concept was actually pretty interesting. So it actually reminds me of 2 films. It reminds me of the live-action movie The Cell, and it also reminds me of a little bit of Paprika. And this came out before both of those by a couple of years, so yeah, it's kinda interesting. And maybe just a little tiny bit that it also does remind me of the movie Scanners, but only that that one came out much earlier than this one. But yeah, knowing that though, the concept in this one is actually fairly interesting. So now, let's get moving on and start talking about the other things, like the animation. And the animation in this one is very rough and low budget. Now, it's not the worst that I've ever seen, but it's definitely not something I can really say it's good. Now, some of the backgrounds are not too badly done, but it's really the animation flow in general that's really lacking. Also, there's one scene where like a dude gets like ran over by a car that was just really laughably bad. Also, the character designs are nothing real too memorable. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this part, but I actually think that MD Geist's animation was a lot better. Now, obviously, MD Geist isn't perfect either, it's also a very low-budget anime, but I feel like that one for low-budget standards was actually not too bad. I mean, it could have been way worse. But at the very least, MD Geist is a lower budget memorable movie, where unlike this one, there's not really a whole lot that stands out. So now, as for the show's music, the music in this one is strangely good. So first thing I have to mention is at the very beginning of this movie, it actually starts off with a music video, and the music for it is very odd, but kinda catchy. I don't know why, but it kind of sounds like Japanese rap. It's very strange, but I don't know, for some reason I kind of dig the beat to it. Well, that's just if you're watching the Japanese version of it. In the English one, it sounds okay. It doesn't sound as good, but it isn't terrible though. And some of the songs that play throughout like the fight scenes and some of like the weird psycho dive shit, it actually does sound pretty good for the most part. Although there's not a whole lot of atmospheric stuff within this one, which is a little unfortunate, except for the part where they're at the cathedral with the cult is. That part's actually kind of cool sounding with its atmospheric stuff, but other than that though, there's really not a whole lot else to it. But overall, I would at least say that the music here is pretty solid. Now, as for the voice acting in this one, if you're gonna be watching it in English, it's terrible, but fucking hilarious. Yeah, this is one of those dubs that are so bad it's good. And another thing that kinda adds more to the funniness of it is that it does add in a few, like, fucking shit words within it, so it kinda seems like they're trying to go for the more hardcore edginess. But I wouldn't say it's on the level of something like Angel Cop, though. That is probably the most edgiest dub I've ever heard. So if you watch it in English, it is pretty damn funny. Of course, if you watch in Japanese, it is a lot more serious. Also, I have to mention this, and I probably should have mentioned it earlier, is that if you guys are watching all of these anime reviews in order for this feature, all of the one-episode OVAs I've been taking a look at for such examples like Bao the Visitor and Twilight of Dark Masters and this one, I just wanted to let you all know I did watch them both with dub and with sub, for that at least they are very short enough. Because I have a feeling there's going to be a few elitists out there that are probably going to complain to me saying how I only do the English versions, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. It really just depends on like how long or short the anime is. I don't mind watching it twice with both versions. Anyways, I figured I'd get that out of the way, but anyways, with that said, as for my overall thoughts on Psycho Dive is that it had potential to be great, but unfortunately, it just kind of became above average. So here's the thing, the concept of this one is actually pretty awesome and I really liked it, but the sucky part is that they really didn't do a whole lot with the concept. Also, the characters are really not all that memorable, and there's not a whole lot of development going on, but of course, I can understand with OVAs being really short, they're not going to have a crazy amount of development, that's all well and good, but for this one, they're just bland. Also doesn't help that the animation in this one is just really low budget and just really isn't all that great. Now, the strangest thing for me with this one is that even though the characters are really nothing all that special, I at least found that this one was really not boring at all. Yeah, throughout its runtime, I was at least somewhat interested and was at least a little bit entertained. I mean, this film all in all is pretty damn average, but for some strange reason, I do kinda like it enough to the point where I can call it above average. I feel like if this one had like at least 2 more episodes, or actually that might be stretching it, maybe even just 1 more extra episode, I think it could have been a lot better. Because I think this one just needed just a little bit more like character development, not like a crazy amount, just a little more, and also just utilize its concept a little more. So knowing that, yeah, this is a really hard one to recommend to people for that. It is not the greatest thing you'll ever see, but at least it does have its good music, and like I said, the concept was at least interesting enough for its entire runtime. But for what it is and its low budgetness, it definitely could have been way, way worse. Yeah, just to add in another thing to add to the controversy of unpopularness is that I actually did like it better than Twilight of the Dark Masters, so there you go. Yeah, I can sense it now. Well, anyways, with that said, Psycho Diver is okay. Not great, but not terrible. But definitely did have the potential to be great.